Last Bull In, our first episode. Lots to talk about.
In case you don't know who we are, we write for ubbullrun.com, the best Bulls fans on the web, better than Buffalo News, which we'll get to. But we're just going to start real quick running around with the scandal of the week, which is Johnny Football, Johnny Capitalism, Johnny Autograph. And I brought this up because I actually got one. $50 from a guy online who swore it's authentic. You know, dear Bull, I love the blog. Makes me wish I was a Bull. And look, he signed it. So don't tell my wife I spent the money. She'll kill me. I was one of the 4,400 signatures now. And apparently, according to some obscure Texas law, the brokers themselves could face jail time if Texas is punished, or Texas A&M is punished.
That's a good law.
Should Texas A&M be punished?
It's hard for me. I was at USC when they got hit with the Reggie Bush stuff, and it was anything that happens, you should have known about it. So that's a compliance issue. Therefore, you get punished. But do I believe they should get punished? No, I don't think so.
But the USC was different because it was so long after the fact. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm glad the hammer came down because I don't like USC. Sorry. But it was so long after the fact. Was Carroll gone by then, or did he leave? Was that the thing that finally pushed him out the door?
That was the thing that pushed him out the door. So he left right before they hit.
Yeah, I mean, you know, so he was out the door. Bush was gone. Yeah, I'm sure he's crying that, they took away his Heisman, although I'm pretty sure he has it locked up somewhere. But I think the reason why you have to go after A&M here is because of what they did to Ohio State. Not a lot different than selling your jerseys or your rings for tattoos. You know, he sold his autograph. I kind of, we go back and forth on the compensation thing. This is even grayer than gray for me. It's a signature. If someone wants to pay him for it, they want to pay him for it. This is not him getting paid to play football. You know, I'm sure somewhere out there someone would pay me to sign something. I don't know who. Someone somewhere.
Yeah, I think. I think this is going to be a hard one because everything was how dumb it was for the athletes to do it, and people did not like Terrell Pryor. He does not have a likable face. Johnny Manziel, on the other hand, I think it's a complete 180. Everyone's talking about how outrageous it is that he could even get in trouble for this. He should be allowed to do it. So I think the NCAA it's going to be really hard for them to punish Texas A&M after how much they profited off of Johnny Football and how popular he is, and the fact that he's only in that limelight because of the conference realignment. His whole thing has been about money and greed, and he's only getting a small piece of it through autographs.
The Ohio State thing really blew up when it came out that Tressel knew. You know, he knew, and he did this like, well, what do you want me to do? The guy said not to tell anybody. I don't think the conference realignment is the reason that Manziel is going to get off easy, and I do think he'll get off easy. I think it's ESPN, which I guess they're kind of one and the same thing. But, man, they built up a brand around Johnny Football. How dumb is it to call a freshman Johnny Football, as good as he is? But you're right. I mean, there's no way that, this is one of those things that you wish that, all the reporters who reported this at ESPN wish they could unreport. Oh, what was that?
Yeah, I don't know. ESPN broke it. Well, if you read Good Bull Hunting, they feel like they feel ESPN is embedded with Texas. So they're always have that persecution card. ESPN's out to get them, to get Texas back on the map again. So that might be true. I hate that Johnny Manziel is doing this because I feel like he's the poster child now for the compensation issue. And I'm for compensation, especially the stuff that is not coming out of the school's pocket. If some broke
that's why I said this is for me is grayer than gray. I don't like paying athletes, but at the same time, if they can make money with their plying their trade or signing autographs on their own time during the summer, why not, right?
But I don't like Manziel is he's my gray area too because he can afford to go to school. He doesn't need the free scholarship. He's already getting money on top of money. He has the floor seats at the basketball game. He's flashing the money at the club. He has the bottles. He has all the. He doesn't need it. And so for him to get it and then him to be the one that we fight for versus the guys who maybe didn't have anything.
You're right. It's unfair how those athletes are treated versus Manziel, who doesn't need the money, isn't a hardship case, and is, everyone really doesn't want anything bad to happen here, except for, of course, like you said, I'm sure they're loving this in Burnt Orange Nation. But I don't like Manziel either, but the only reason why I think you have to punish him is because of what they did to Terrell Pryor. And you know me, I was very in favor of that punishment. I was livid when they let him play. They let him play in the Fiesta Bowl, right? Because that's when all this was breaking.
Right.
I was livid. I mean, that to me was like the ultimate blue blood overlooking something. If that had been Boise State's quarterback or, TCU's quarterback or something, there's no way they would have been allowed to play. Wouldn't have happened. Speaking of ESPN, they bought out the Boise Bowl. So now the MAC has another bowl out there. I'm in Minnesota, and I consider Boise kind of the middle of nowhere. It would take me forever and a day to drive there. But I like the fact we have a bowl against the Mountain West Conference, because that's what I was most afraid of losing. The other talk is that there may be a bowl coming up in Charleston against the Sun Belt. And I didn't want it to become like the MAC versus the Sun Belt in 4 different bowls. That would have been, to me, like the worst possible outcome of all this bowl realignment. I could do without Conference USA. I love the AAC, the Mountain West, and I do like playing the Sun Belt in 1 or 2 bowls. I'm fine with that. They have a good team. They usually have 1 or 2 decent teams a year. But would you go to Boise for a bowl? Actually, you're out even further west than I am.
Right. I found out it's a 13-hour drive, so I would definitely be able to make it. Would I want to go? I guess. I don't know.
You need these bowls. Why does everyone pan the snow bowls? The Pinstripe Bowl, the Boise Bowl. The idea of doing an outdoor one in Detroit was dumb. Just dumb when that was floated to use Tiger Stadium. Mm-hmm. But you need a couple bowls to balance out those beautiful places people go, because that's what December football is supposed to look like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind winter football. I mean, there is the Pinstripe Bowl. I've been around New York City during the bowl. It seems like a lot of fun. There's it was the Military Bowl. I don't know what they're calling it now. Some credit union.
That's in D.C., right?
Yeah, it's in D.C. So that will be fine. That's where I predict we're actually going to go this year. And I'm hoping, because I actually can't make it to the Boise Bowl this year, even though it's close. So the date is not right. So I'm hoping we don't go to Boise. But even if we did, what is there to do in Idaho? I don't know. I've never been there. I don't want to offend, but it just sounds unappealing, especially
being from Minnesota. When I first moved to Minnesota, I was convinced I was going to land and it would be like nothing but like lumberjacks and blue bulls and Paul Bunyan running around. But there's I gotta say the folks in these freezing Midwestern states really find stuff to do with the winter. So when they were there, I think when Bowling Green was there, they like had sledding events, skating events, And if you're coming from the south, ice skating outdoors is kind of a novelty. Kind of like for us going to the beach in December is a novelty.
Yeah.
So
I guess I wonder how hard of a sell it would be for our fan base. That's
I think it would be very hard. I think Boise is an expensive city to fly into, if I'm not mistaken. And like I said, I could drive it. It takes me just to get to Idaho. Oh, actually, no, I have to go through Montana too. Oh gosh, it'd probably be about a 20-hour drive for me to get there. Yeah. And like I said, I'm past Chicago, so
yeah, it'd be comfortable for me. I think I have 4 hours to Vegas, do a night in Vegas, and then eight or 9 hours to Boise, so it would be fine. It's just
you don't have 3 kids in the car.
Yeah, I won't have that either. I'm praying for New York City. I'm praying for Washington D.C. If we're playing a Mountain West team, I don't want that big home field advantage. Just the time zones. I would rather be out on our coast. What do you think with ESPN buying the bowl that they're going to get rid of the MAC there?
Oh, it's set. I mean, what's being said is it's 6 years the MAC and the Mountain West Conference. I think it's MAC number 2 or 3, but they haven't specified the Mountain West Conference. And what I'm afraid of is it's going to become the scrub that sneaks into the bowl every year. And those are the no-win games. I mean, if you beat them, so what? They're a scrub. If you lose, you make the whole MAC conference look bad.
You said there's also a game in Charleston?
That's the rumor. The rumor is that there's another Mac and Sunbelt Bowl being discussed in Charleston. I don't know if the GMAC Bowl or this might be the replacement for the Little Caesars Bowl because I don't think Detroit can handle two bowls.
I saw on Twitter something about Montgomery, Alabama, looking for the MAC as well.
Yeah, honestly, I don't. Can Alabama handle a third bowl?
They
That'd
have a bunch
one in the state.
I guess Montgomery's the biggest city in Alabama, I believe it's the biggest city.
I think you're right. Charleston's better, just footprint-wise. I mean, getting to Charleston, South Carolina, from if you're a fan of the Bobcats or of Miami, getting to Charleston is just basically getting anywhere. Once you're outside of Athens, then you can finally find a highway somewhere,
right?
And sneak down to Charleston. I would much prefer that, but. Yeah, maybe I did hear Montgomery as well, so maybe it'll land one of those two places. Speaking of the Buffalo News, I've managed to raise their ire and get into a few unfortunate Twitter exchanges with them over the past couple weeks. And it's mainly because I think they're incapable of just writing an article about football when it comes to UB. I think it's in their DNA. It's like we're writing about UB. If the football's good, we'll say the football's good. If the football stinks, we'll say the football stinks. But whatever we do, be sure to mention it's a minor league thing. Got to get that dig in against White. Got to, and I had read that article that I think Harrington put up two days ago, yesterday, and I just lost it. It's one of those times when you're glad you have the separation of 1,000 miles in the internet because it was such tripe. But, I'm concerned because when I first started Bull Run, right, and when you were doing 8 wins is enough, no one was talking Buffalo UB sports. No one was doing it. Right after 2009, right after they won that first MAC championship, Rodney McKissick was picking it up, and a few guys really start to follow, and it's finally coverage. And it seems like they're kind of walking backwards now. Like, they have to talk about it. Because they're slapping Buffalo in the face by calling themselves New York or putting New York patch here. Is the Buffalo News going to hurt UB more by ignoring them or by talking about them?
I think it means that we're big time because we're getting the classic Bills and Sabres treatment right now. The Buffalo News will pick something that's not the on the field product. And I think we're lucky that they're doing that because once they find something on the field, they can pick apart every performance, that you have. Reading that article, I'm kind of disappointed because I've heard the same things he said from many Buffalonians. I was a biggest cheerleader of the team when I was there, 04, 05, 06, and you get the same excuses over and over again why no one's even going to try to watch the team.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it's just very apathetic. It's not a big deal. It's below the Bisons, it's below the Bandits. It's just not worth anyone's time in Buffalo. And it's sad when the newspaper, before one of the most exciting seasons in the history of the team, wants to take that same approach, that it's not really worth it. And here's the reason why. And for such a reason like the New York patch to be the reason not to come out and support the team, that's kind of sad. The whole article was double talk. It's all about the look was his start out, but then at the end it's just win. So which one is it? Is it important that we need to win because we have a really good team that you haven't talked about in this article? Is it important about the look? And so it doesn't matter if we win or not. I really don't know what he was trying to say. I think he just threw a lot of things out there that will rile people up, and I guess that's the business.
There were 3 good articles in there. That's what really cheesed me off. I am a terrible writer. I know this, right? You are good, and the guys who write for the news are good, and you look at what Ben Sujimoto is doing over at Buffalo.com, and he is good. And as someone who cut out part of his brain, to do engineering that I would have needed to write otherwise, it ticks me off when I see someone who's a good writer and just waste it by not thinking through what they're going to write. He had 3 good pieces there. He could have wrote a piece about the football team. Honestly, the New York thing, go ahead and attack it. I'm going to disagree because we're in a metropolitan area of 1 million people, and that stadium's half full at best. Buffalo kind of lost the right to complain about how they're getting slapped in the face. I don't want to offend people in Buffalo. Love the city. I know if I could find a job there that would pay what I'd make here, I would go. But you don't come out for the team. So when we try to focus on the fact that we get more incoming students from New York City than we get from Western New York, that's somehow a slap in the face. And then there was the extending Quinn, which, yeah, I get that, right? The ink's still not on that contract, and there's a reason why. I think that was White saying what he had to say, maybe writing it, but nothing's signed yet.
Well, I don't even say that. That if you can say it's about recruiting, and that's a message to the recruits that you are recruiting right now. But I really think it's about football. You can't install a new system in 1 year.
No.
And so now
especially
you have.
With what he inherited.
Well, and I mean, if we fired Quinn last year, and we brought in a new guy with a brand new system, it would ruin every one of our seniors that we have right now.
Yeah.
So the only bet as you have is that Quinn is not so toxic as to ruin the season with as much talent we have. So that's the gamble.
But to put on my Buffalo News hat here, why did he let go of Spoon?
Because
We have
Spoon,
maybe the best Buffalo basketball senior class that we're going to have for a long time.
the only thing I would say is
Grant Hurley runs a very different game than Witherspoon.
the only thing I would say is that we've had two different eras of best basketball team under Spoon. We had the team that should have won the MAC championship in 2005.
Yep.
And then we had that second team, which I never watched, but that was really good.
Rodney Pierce in 08.
Yes, that team.
Yeah.
So, and we've had, so I don't know, and that's the knock on Reggie is can't win the big game. The good coach who can't win the big game. So you can kind of say that Reggie has a track record, and you're not going to let him spoil this last team by not winning the big game. Especially the season we had last year, we should have done a lot better. So I don't think we should have fired Reggie, but at the end of the day, you got to win. It's a make or miss year. I mean, we can go on and on about Quinn versus Reggie, but why would the Buffalo News bring up Reggie? Why would he bring up Reggie in football? It's a moot point. Why would you bring up Quinn's extension at the beginning of a season after you said it's the most talented program we ever had? That before the sentence before that, he was talking about how Quinn's a hopeless optimist, and this year it's not just coach speak. But it's still it made my head hurt. It's the most optimistic.
But
year.
everything he said was followed immediately by, but it could be crap.
Right. That's why it made my head hurt.
Yeah.
That's the typical Buffalo News treatment, which I said we should be honored to get, because they're never wrong that way. And he will say it on Twitter. I like wasn't wrong. So I told you that Quinn was told us it was going to be a great season if we win 8 games. If we win 2 games, I told you it was just coach speak. I'm never wrong writing, and it's pointless. It's a throwaway article. It shouldn't have been written that way. And it's pretty much 3 different opinion pieces, 3 different opinions, and maybe 3 different writers should have written. I think he really wanted to write the article about and maybe it got edited because I really think he wanted to write an article about how they put New York on the chest and it's a travesty. That's what I think the article he wanted to write.
Yeah. But it's hard to write that article, right? I mean, it's hard to write that article out of nowhere. It would have been really easy when the patch was released 2 weeks ago, to go ahead and write your hit piece then. I mean, it was all over the place online. It definitely got publicity, got some ugly uniform awards, but anyone who calls it hideous needs to take a look at the Miami Redhawk uniforms. About the summer camp and the spring ball and what you've seen that surprised you or what you see that you're really worried about for this coming season. We all know there's a big talent cliff next year. We'll have a long time to dissect that.
I think there's nothing that I've seen or heard that has changed the concerns that we've had. I think secondary wide receiver is going to be a big one, taking the pressure off of Newts. I haven't heard anything good or bad about Licata, so I'm assuming that's good. On defense, I'm worried.
What we haven't heard is how close the competition is, and I'm so glad for that. We haven't heard all summer, it's neck and neck. Today it's Zordich getting most of the things, and hey, look, even Daniels looks good. Like I'm just glad we went through a spring where for the most part it was all Okada, and it's been silent since then. So to me, I take that as a very good sign
Right,
because
for
Quinn
that.
is not very faithful to his starting quarterback before the season starts. Once the season starts, he actually kind of buckles down. If it's a train wreck, he'll pull him. But I mean, I remember when he left Jerry Davis, and there were games where it's like, just get him out. Like he's having a bad game. Give someone else reps. We're down 50 points.
I think the biggest worry I have is coaching. We have the personnel to win the MAC East. We have the personnel to win the MAC. But it comes down to coaching. Taking back to Zordich being injured in the Toledo game when he was obviously injured before the game started.
You called that.
Right.
Before he was hurt. You commented on that.
That's Brandon Oliver. I mean, last year, or not last, 2 years ago, 2011, I was just worried about Oliver's carry count. You're going to 30 carries a game. We're going to ground this running back into the ground, and then it didn't happen. And then last year, all of a sudden, it did happen, and we're a completely different team without Brandon Oliver. And I'm dying to use two backs. At least if we can give Oliver 22 carries and someone else 10 carries, that gives him an extra 3 or 4 games a year than having him run 32 to 35 times a game. And if Okada gets hurt, a minor injury, are we going to throw him out there and let him get taken out for the rest of the season, or are we going to put in our backup? That's stuff I worry about.
The ball, for the love of God, throw the ball away, Joe.
Right.
Don't get hurt.
And then I really, someone who I got on more than I got on Quinn is Lou Tepper.
Yeah, the drop linebacker.
We drop Means and Mack into coverage almost every play, and we put our defensive backs 10 yards back in a cushion. We just sat back, and I rewatched the game with a stopwatch to see how much time the quarterback had to throw the ball, and we were giving him 5, 6, 7 seconds. You could have used an hourglass. You could have used a sundial. We took the most aggressive. We took the most aggressive defense UConn was going to see all year, and we neutered them. And I don't know why. And maybe it was part of a process because our defensive backs got a lot better. So maybe we were going to hang them out to dry for 8 weeks, and then by week 9 they were going to be better. So if you read
my
write-up,
plan.
Yeah, I mean that's the long haul, planning for the long haul. If you read my write-up on Khalil Mack, I said he's going to be better this year because he's going to have defensive backs. Basically, we have 2 guys who can probably play on an island, and we have a couple of good safeties. We can probably send 7 guys at the quarterback most of the time and just be that flying at the ball team that pins the ears back and really gives people trouble. I don't know if we're going to do it just because I don't trust.
Yeah.
I don't trust us to do that.
One of our linebackers, I don't remember who is. We have a linebacker this year on leading the depth chart who's converted DB, right?
Adam Redden, I believe.
Redden, that's who I'm thinking of. Maybe that's your drop linebacker. Maybe that's how you make the drop linebacker work. You're right. I'm never a fan of it, right? You pin the ears back. You mentioned Temple football forever earlier. His big gripe against Golden was always, if you can't get to the quarterback with 4, send 5. If you can't get to him with 5, send 6. If you can't get him with 6, send 7. But you let him sit back there all day. It doesn't matter how good your DBs are. Eventually, someone's going to get open.
I think the distance between us and a championship is coaching.
Which makes you happy that the extension's not signed yet. I'm gonna keep throwing it out there until they finally sign the extension. But I can't get a look at it. Every time I ask for the Freedom of Information request, I'm told it's not signed yet, so we can't release it.
And will it ever get signed?
It's been 8 or 9 months since that extension was announced. So I don't know at this point what details are quibbling over. Speaking of details, I wanted to get on this earlier about the Reggie Witherspoon ECC thing. What is the deal with it? How do you do that? Does UB Athletics really have an ear made of tin? They just got past it, right? Reggie leaves, everyone is furious. Everyone's livid. I'm livid, right? Everyone is like, how did you not give him one last year with the team he built? Okay, bring Hurley in, all the excitement. All of a sudden, the wounds start to heal over. You find out Reggie's going to get a job at ECC, and you're happy for him.
Mhm.
Everyone loves Witherspoon. The Buffalo guy. He's going to be at ECC. He came from ECC. It's not a happy ending, but it's not a Greek tragedy either. And then a week before it's announced, oh, wait a minute, now this might void his contract, which is almost always coaching. You know, it's always if you get a job as a coach, we don't have to keep paying you anymore. So, you know, unfortunately, I think that contract. I think Ward Manuel, when he extended it, he didn't release it. Right? It was filed as private for some reason, and I don't know anyone's ever gotten the details on it. But unless it's clear cut, I think UB just needs to drop it, bite the bullet, and pay the man.
You know, I would love for UB to do that. Just seems like the right thing to do. On the other hand, it's nice to be a guy like Danny White. You're an outsider. We all have our emotions in it. We all have our heart in it. If I was AD, I would just cut the check. If we had to take the money out of somewhere else, and we couldn't put those badges on our chests now that say New York on them, that might be where the money's gone. And so now it's time to fight for your budget. But he's an outsider. He doesn't know Reggie, from anyone else. So he doesn't have to have an emotional attachment to it. So, I guess I have to march for the company line. I wish they would just let it go so it's over. Like you said, there's no reason to pull this back. It should not lead into basketball season, and it's a couple months away from doing that. We all want to just move on.
We just finished Cohane's lawsuit. Are we going to start another one? We have a quote of one former coach suing UB at a time. Cohane's gone. So now comes Witherspoon, right?
If that's what we want to put our energy into, if it's going to save us money, I guess we'll go for it. I assume, like everything, Reggie's going to want it all. We're going to say we're not going to pay him any, and at some point we'll settle in the middle. And if that's going to save us a couple $100,000 that we're going to put back into the program, I guess I can't be mad about that.
Well, then we could work on those facilities that the Buffalo News doesn't think we're actually ever talking about, right?
I'm a big hater of UB Stadium. I haven't been there since 2010. Until you get rid of the track, you can't really even talk about doing anything to the stadium. And that was my big thing. Don't do the Murchie complex. Don't build a field house. Get rid of that track.
The Murchie's low-hanging. So you need the field house. I disagree on that. You need the field house more than anything right now. And the Murchie complex is low-hanging fruit. That didn't cost them much to build. I mean, you can save up to dig down that field, and you'll be saving forever. The field house will be big. I mean, that to me has to be the one thing that puts us at a recruiting disadvantage. And every year we wonder why. It's like, why are we losing all these recruiting battles, right? Why does it seem like we have to go find the Brandon Olivers, right? We have to go find these guys who are awesome, but nobody knows it. Because if we find the guys that are awesome and anyone else gets wind of it, we're in trouble. I mean, the thing I liked about White is where he came from before the SEC, because he's used to mid-major problems. And you kind of have seen that with the way he's attacked fundraising. Everyone was worried, oh, yeah, he's used to making SEC money. We don't have there. But he has not followed an SEC model of fundraising in Buffalo at all. He's not running around with a tin can looking for big donors. He's saying, okay, here's what I'm going to do. Will you pay for it? So, yeah, I would be afraid to bring someone in from the Big Ten, honestly. I don't think anyone who's been in the Big Ten as an AD or an assistant AD or an executive assistant, janitor, AD, whatever, at a Big Ten school for too long could function on a mid-major budget. I think it would be like hiring the Kardashians to wash your dishes, right? It's just like, no.
Remember to keep an eye on our website as we continue to count down to the road to 2013, ubbullrun.com.